When you begin to study ancient Egyptian royalty, you quickly realize that the strangest thing about them is their particular interest in marrying close relatives. So in this video, I'm going to explain why did they do it, and what did the common people think? Didn't people question this weird tradition? I've got King Tut, Cleopatra, Ramesses, all these twisted family trees on my channel. Thank you for watching, subscribe for more videos, and let me know in the comments who you want to see next. Atum. The primordial god had twins, Shu and Tefnut. Shu was the god of air, and Tefnut, his twin sister, was the goddess of moisture. They were responsible for creating the framework of the earth and the sky. And so their children, the twins Geb and Nut, were the god of earth and the goddess of the sky. They had Osiris and Isis, two more twins, god of the sun and goddess of the moon. Those twins had Horus. And Horus is who the pharaohs are believed to be an embodiment of upon his death. So that brings us to the pharaohs and kingship. Humans were not gods, for regular Egyptians at least. In 1986, there was a study by J.M. Robinson, and the survey found only a handful of non-royal Egyptians practiced incest or polygamy over 2,000 years, and so that number is quite small. But looking at the royal Egyptians, it just happened all the time, and so why was it so exclusive to them and they kept on practicing it? The king, you see, was qualitatively different to regular people, and therefore did things that humans did not, and before the Hellenistic period. Incest did not trickle down to the common people, it stayed right up at the top. Unexpectedly, incest and polygamy, it's all related to the king's gender, and how gender was perceived in ancient Egypt. We need to study that. So to do that, we have to return to mythology. A number of gods associated with kingship had a complex relationship with gender. Atum, the creator god, impregnated himself. Osiris, progenitor of kingship, had a penis, but was sexually passive in the conception of his son Horus. Amun, the divine analog for the king, particularly during the New Kingdom, could be called both father of fathers and mother of mothers. This is, at least in part, why the Egyptians had no conceptual issue with having a female king. And there were, like Hatshepsut, Sobekneferu, or Tau Oseret. Whoever it was, any divine model for the king had to have both masculine and feminine attributes. So with the gods, this is particularly pointed in the case of Atum, who conceives the world by creating intercourse between a grammatically masculine part of his body, his penis, and a grammatically feminine part, his hand. In some artworks, we even find a goddess named his hand accompanying Atum. So although kings were normally male, when a female became king, she became both masculine and feminine simultaneously. But for a male king, because he still incorporated both masculine and feminine aspects as well, to deal with the feminine aspects, like interacting with female deities, he transmuted it into female bodies, aka the female relatives of the king. So any royal woman had as her title something along the lines of the king's mother, the king's sister, the king's wife, right? We've heard about these titles before, and they're all conceived not as individuals, like how the European queen implies, but they are as simultaneous possessions and extensions of the king. So the king's sisters were essentially part of the king himself, and marrying them and creating new life with them was conceptually the same as Atum creating new life with his hand. They wanted to emulate the same thing. Now, whether any Egyptian king actually thought about why they were doing this is hard to say. To them, it was traditional, and the divine model of Osiris and Isis was highly compelling. The king was conceptually Horus, their son. But if the king's own son was also going to be Horus, then the king also had to be Osiris, which means his wife had to be his sister Isis, and so on and so on. There are also strong political reasons, in the same way you wouldn't want to transfer any of the king's divine power outside of the family by allowing a non-royal to marry one of his sisters. So in all the marriage diplomacy going on during the New Kingdom between the great powers of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Asia Minor, the Egyptians are remarkably more resilient to allowing any of their royal women to be married to foreign kings. Going down the pyramid, as for your standard everyday regular Egyptian, I don't think he would have thought about this at all. Perhaps only he knew that the pharaoh was this divine being, and perhaps that's all they were told. If you were so far away from the palace, perhaps you never even saw a glimpse of who the pharaoh was. There's a poem by Alexander Pope which comes to mind. Know then thyself, presume not God to scan. The proper study of mankind is man, and whatever the Egyptian king was, to the Egyptians, he certainly was not a man. And that brings us to the end of this video. Subscribe for more videos. Each of your subscriptions does help this channel grow. It allows me to continue making more content for you. Let me know in the comments who you want to see next. I do make a list of all your suggestions, and I will see you in the next one.